Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Chaos no longer stands undivided. As Sigvald, we take in the fight to Archaon, as I will be commanding Sigvald, and Ice Power will have control of Archaon and his forces of chaos. So for my side of the matchup, it is going to be some Chaos Warriors with great weapons in the back line. Front line is going to be Chaos Marauders, so they are going to have a little bit of shields there against any of the Skirmish Cav. We have some Chaos Warhounds with poison for some nice quick poison on the field. We also have a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, kind of looking to get using that bonus versus large against some of the opposing forces. And in the back line, it is going to be, of course, the Mirror Guard. These guys have immune to psychology. They have 100 base armor with silver shields. For the Lord, I do have Prince Sigvald the Magnificent. He is going to be rolling on in with Slippery as well as Stand Your Ground. And of course, he has his Auric armor, which gives +8 extra little bit of regen. And he has a Chaos Sorcerer of Metal in assistance, as he's going to be bringing Plague of Rust and Final Transmutation. So for the quick mobility, which is pretty much going to be a staple of this matchup, is going to be 6 Skirmish Cav spread throughout that front. It is going to be a pair of Marauder Horsemasters and 1 Marauder Horseman on both sides, so a total of 4 Horsemasters and 2 Horsemen. And that is going to be it for my side of things. For Ice Power and his Warriors of Chaos, he's going to have something rather similar, as we do have some Horsemasters over here. So he'll have 2 Horsemasters, 2 Horsemen. He also does have a Hell Cannon, and his front line is going to be Chaos Marauders with great weapons, so he's going to have 4 units of those. And then in the back is going to be his more elite troops, as he does have those Chaos Warriors with great weapons, a pair of those, and he will have the Mirror Guard sitting right behind that Hell Cannon, keeping that thing up and operational for as long as possible. And then for his Lord, it is Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, looking to bring Sigvald back into the fold, and he is going to be bringing, we have, just a second, he has Flamestorm, he also has Fireball with Kindle Flame, and then he has his Frenzy, and here he is going to be immune to psychology with that Frenzy, and he is going to be having that Guardian put on him by the Swords of Chaos, a very elite ROR Chaos Knight unit, not to be seen too much of. They only have 18 models, but their stats are insane, as they have 54 melee attack, 61 melee defense, 65 armor-piercing weapon strength, and they have right now they have 93 leadership. Their base leadership is 84 and 120 armor. These guys also have Guardian to boot as well, so these guys are very strong cavalry force, but usually their lack of numbers usually kind of prevents them from having too much of an impact on that battle. But that is going to be it for both sides. Let's get things rolling, as the skirmish phase is going to be getting underway, as that Hell Cannon going to be raining shots in, trying to get as many of these Horsemasters off the field as possible, while the overall all numbers on my side of things are going to be trying to pepper down the Horsemasters and Horsemen, doing a very nice volley on the other side, taking down those Horsemen pretty good with a volley from 3 different cavalry units, as they are going to be starting to put pressure on to the Chaos side, led by Ice Power, as the rest of my forces are going to be moving up through that tree line, coming on down. That Hell Cannon definitely going to be forcing that engagement against Ice Power here, while the Archaon and the Swords of Chaos going to be sitting pretty much in the rear, just kind of waiting things out as the skirmish phase is going to be getting underway. The Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is getting a little close as well, just going to be looking to at least counteract any potential charges, but it looks like the Swords of Chaos going to be keeping themselves in reserve, just letting that Hell Cannon and just kind of poking in and out with these Marauder Horsemen and Horsemasters. I'll be doing pretty much the same thing, just trying to dodge as many shots as possible, as the volleys are going back and forth here. Pretty much how this matchup kind of tends to lend itself. And now the frontal engagement going to be getting underway. Mirror Guard with Sigvald in tow, going to be charging against the Marauders with weapons. The Mirror Guard on the other side, and all of the Chaos forces going to be colliding across the front line. Now the Marauders will do probably a little better into the Chaos Marauders with great weapons. However, there is just so much armor piercing here. Really, these Mirror Guard going to be taking quite a bit of damage, and we are going to be getting a very nice Flamestorm right into the middle of these Mirror Guard, doing a nice bit of damage to them. But just as that goes off, these Chaos Marauders do break, and the Mirror Guard are going to be chasing them back. So the rest of that Flamestorm still doing quite a bit of damage, though, as it continues to move around that front line. And we are going to be getting a Final Transmutation as well, hitting these Marauder Horsemen and these Horsemasters here, doing a nice bit of damage. And this is going to be, I believe, an Overcast, so that is going to be doing a nice bit of damage to that mobility, really going to be helping shut down that mobility a lot faster. and then the rest of the forces just continuing to pluck away. Horsemen and Horsemasters trying to get into that back line, and Shaggoth now diving right on, taking that axe right into the Hell Cannon, doing a nice little bit of damage there, while everything else is just going to be starting to pepper on in. Swords of Chaos are going to be making their first engagement, charging into that Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, and they are going to be making sure that that Shaggoth is taking quite a bit of damage, and he is taking quite a bit indeed. Sigvald tries to get a few hits on Archaon, but he's going to be turning his attention back to that Hell Cannon and the rest of the Swords of Chaos, and they are taking that Shaggoth down very, very quickly, and they are taking very little damage in return, especially considering that Dragon Ogre is armor piercing bonus versus large. These Swords of Chaos are just trading so very well into that Shaggoth, who costs a very pretty penny indeed. And the rest of the forces, though, going rather well for my side of things in the mobility game. The Horsemen, Horsemasters able to trade very well into the much lightly numbered opposing side, as they have taken a lot of damage, though the Chaos Warriors, the great weapons on my side of things, the infantry not doing so great. Archaon and those Flamestorms have done quite a number on the troops already. You just see that last cast here taking out a good chunk of units here, as the Mirror Guard standing very tall. The Chaos Warriors with great weapons just unable to break them down. My Mirror Guard is going to be succumbing, but the last of the Hell Cannon crew falls to Sigvald's sword. But just as Archaon and the Swords of Chaos do charge in, the Chaos Warriors with Warhounds were trying to get a little bit damage into these Chaos Marauders, but now Sigvald is going to be kind of stuck between that Hell Cannon and the Swords of Chaos, and he is far away from any infantry support, and he is going to be trying to pull back into these Chaos, or I guess some Chaos Warriors or something in the line, but most of that infantry is going to be pretty much all gone for my Chaos side. But there is still plenty of Marauder Horsemen, Horsemasters, and all of which have quite a bit of ammunition, are going to be able to start plucking away bit by bit. But Archaon and those Swords of Chaos really have Sigvald kind of really caught out there. All of the mass from the Swords of Chaos are going to be able to hold him in, and as Archaon charges on forward, going to be getting some nice hits into Prince Sigvald. He does pop Slippery, so that gives him a nice little buff to his melee defense. So that's 24 extra melee defense on him, and he is able to kind of weasel his way on out as he does kind of charge forward, try and just get engaged in any infantry at this point, try and get something between him and Archaon, because he is not going to be able to contend with Archaon very well. We do have some infantry left, but for the most part, our advantage is going to be held solely in our mobility game, as we have taken down a lot on the opposing side. Some of the Marauder Horsemen on that side are able to kind of collapse upon that Chaos Sorcerer, but he is able to kind of sustain. He is going to be able to tank that, but Archaon is going to be a different story entirely, as he is going straight for the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, and that Sorcerer Lord definitely going to be running for the hills, does not want to be anywhere near Archaon. Flamestorm trying to catch out these Marauder Horsemen and Horsemasters, but they are able to kind of get out, and wisely though, Archaon is able to actually cancel that cast there, using it to swap out for that fireball, and then turning his attention to Sigvald in the back, while the Horsemen, Horsemasters all dive in on the last remaining Horsemasters and Horsemen of Ice Powers Chaos, as they are able to get rid of them and are now going to be able to turn their attention at whittling down the last of the supporters. Though Balance Power is going to be favoring Ice Power here, Archaon is still at full health. And Sigvald, while he does have quite a bit of room to regen, is going to be the target of Archaon's wrath, as he does take a fireball right to the back. Going to be doing a little bit of friendly damage to these Chaos Warriors, but Sigvald going to be trying to run for the hills, but unfortunately Archaon is quite a bit faster, going to be getting some hits into the rear, as Sigvald tries to at least get into anything and anything at this point, trying to just muck up the Archaon and the Swords of Chaos in their own troops, just try and get their attention turned elsewhere. But Archaon is relentless, as he is going to be taking Sigvald down a notch or two. We do have the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth has returned in the rear, but he's on just slivers of HP. If we look, only 634, and before he can even get close to those Chaos Marauders, he does end up routing nonetheless. And at this point, things are looking rather grim for my Chaos side, as the Mirror Guard, the Swords of Chaos, and Archaon in particular is very strong at this point, as Sigvald takes a nice hit, but we are going to be getting it looks like just a regular final transmutation. It is going to be centered on the Swords of Chaos, and the Warriors of Chaos on Ice Power does a good job of kind of spreading out the forces, seeing that coming, but we are able to get some very nice damage onto these swords, because they are going to be very hard to bring down, as they do charge forth into these Marauder Horsemasters, but they are getting very low. But this is where their leadership is going to be coming into play, despite them being on just slivers of HP at this point, only sitting at 599 themselves. they are still sitting pretty decent in terms of leadership as Sigvald takes another fireball to the face, getting very close to his healing cap, and has just been unable to do enough damage to Archaon, as he does get a little hit into those Swords of Chaos, but he does get knocked back as the charge does hit home. And Sigvald getting very low, but he is able to start wavering those Swords of Chaos, and they need to get dealt with if they are going to be able to kind of just whittle down, because that is the last of the mobility. I mean, Archaon is the exception to that, and they are going to be taking some brutal shots as they do try and charge forth, but they are finally routing down to just a single unit left, as the Chaos Sorcerer are going to be trying to escort to that last one off the field, but Archaon is going to be the major threat here in the late game. But the mobility is very heavily in my favor, as we have plenty of Horsemen, Horsemasters, still with a bit of ammunition left, as they are going to be targeting these Chaos Marauders, able to rout them off with their volleys. And now the last target is going to be Mirrorguard, but there is one more unit off in the distance, which is going to be making its way back, is those Chaos Marauders with great weapons, but they're not going to be too much of a threat at this point. We do get a Plague of Rust going down onto the Mirrorguard, reducing their armor, just trying to allow the Marauder Horsemasters to get as much extra damage in as possible, and they're going to be just trying to get shots in at all angles, trying to avoid those silver shields where at all possible, as Archaon does fire off another fireball at the Chaos Sorcerer, who is holding that balance of power as away from army losses as possible, because Archaon is just such a major threat here, as he does try and get a Flamestorm in, as the forces of the Sigvald's Chaos side are just trying to scramble to avoid it. For the most part, they were able to dodge most of the incoming damage, but a few units did succumb to the fires. And the Mirrorguard, though, are getting whittled down bit by bit, getting a charge in by the Horsemasters, who have used up the last of their ammunition, getting their leadership dangerously low. And if they are able to break them, Archaon will be forced to stand alone against the tides of Sigvald's Chaos, though Sigvald has fallen on the battlefield. His forces still stand tall. A nice little dodge by the Chaos Sorcerer Metal, avoiding any incoming damage, because they are just sitting on the edges of army losses. They cannot afford to take any unnecessary damage, though they are able to rout the Mirrorguard, and that is going to allow Archaon to just kind of have to engage. Once he is going to be stuck into melee, he is going to be forced to engage. These Chaos Marauders with great weapons do take a charge and are going to shatter from it. And the Mirrorguard now going to be getting chased off by the last of the Horsemen, Horsemasters. Just a few shots left across the board in terms of ammunition. Archaon still has the Winds of Magic, going to be getting a fireball, arcing its way towards that Chaos Sorcerer, who is going to be trying to dodge it, and he is able to dodge that incoming damage and hold that balance where it stands. But it is going to be cavalry versus one very angry Everchosen, as he is going to try and cull the rebellious Chaos side and bring everyone back into the fold. Mirrorguard going to be getting run down by these Marauder Horsemasters, and once they are gone, it is going to be down to just Archaon, who is trying to catch out this Chaos Sorcerer Metal, but both of them on horse. The Chaos Sorcerer is going to be able to dodge that incoming damage, though he is closing that distance here. And once again, the order is going to be given as he does charge on out, and that is going to now get a few extra last volleys as the ammunition is spent on these Horsemasters. And now it is going to be the charge of the cavalry as they charge into Archaon, trying to just whittle him down, getting that charge bonus off. And now they're just going to have to try and muck him up with all of the horsemen they have left. They still have 4 units in total. One of the horsemen still has like 1 volley of ammunition, but at this point will probably do more friendly fire than actual damage to Archaon as they charge in themselves, getting a little bit of extra leadership off that charge as the initial unit does pull out, trying to just replenish that cycle, the charge bonus, just get as much advantage as they can. Horsemen do end up routing, but the rest of the Horsemasters are just surrounding Archaon, just charging on in, getting as much damage in as they possibly can. But Archaon, he is just sitting so strong. He has 4,000 HP to deal with, 120 armor, and he has some pretty decent splash attacks as well, so he's going to be able to fell quite a few of these Marauder Horsemasters. With every swing of his sword, more and more of the Horsemasters are falling to the ground to rise no more. These guys are going to pull out just before they end up routing from just that engagement with Archaon. We're going to replenish that charge bonus and come back in one more time, as they're just going to continue to cycle in and out, trying to bog down Archaon. Balance of power edging maybe a little bit more back towards the center, as Archaon is going to just hopefully just get bogged down at this point. But he is just so healthy, and he is just such a world beater at this point. Chaos Sorcerer Metal just kind of keeping his distance, staying just close enough to kind of keep his men in the fight for as long as he can. but unfortunately things are not looking so great for these horsemen. They are getting really low in terms of leadership. These guys are all shaken. They're tired, while Archaon is exhausted, and a Plague of Rust does go down, reducing that armor, so he is down to 90 armor, and the forces of my Chaos are going to be trying to take advantage of that, charging on in, trying to get us surround off, do as much damage while that Plague of Rust is active, as they are going to have to pull out here because they cannot afford to rout off the field. They need to continue using fresh forces, but Archaon just still standing so strong right now. His leadership is getting down to half, but his HP still sitting at 3,000. They've only taken out about 800 in total HP off of him since the cycling has begun, but they are just trying their best to bring down the Everchosen, but he is just standing amongst a pile of bodies at this point. All of the horses and horse masters just falling to the ground. The Chaos Sorcerer charging in, trying to get as much damage in. He does land a hit, but Archaon is going to be able to land one in return, but he does pull out just before Archaon is able to land another one. The horse master is able to provide an adequate block for him, but they just need to try and whittle him down to 2,600, but the horsemen getting very low overall. Their leadership is getting danger low. Balance power is kind of edging closer and closer to even, but I don't think the leadership from the horse masters is going to be able to maintain. One doesn't routing, the other is wavering themselves, as is the last. And the Sorcerer Lord charges in one more time, but his support is going to be lost, and Archaon now lands a brutal hit against that Chaos Sorcerer Metal, pulling out once again as his Horsemasters charge in. But unfortunately, with all of the damage sustained by these Horsemasters, I just don't think they have it in them to drag down the Everchosen, as the Everchosen is standing very tall. Sorcerer dives in once again. He cannot afford to allow his Horsemasters to rout, but unfortunately that is going to be it, as army losses do finally take into effect, and Archaon stands amongst a body of dead horses as the Horsemaster is unable to finish the job. So let's take a little look at the after battle report. So for the Forces of Chaos on Ice Power's side of things, the Hell Cannon only able to get 628, not really a whole lot of good value on that side. Horsemasters and the Horsemen, actually Horsemen did better than the Horsemasters there. A little unfortunate on that side. I mean, usually this does kind of break down into having mass skirmish cav, but the rest of his forces was able to do rather well. The Warriors with Great Weapons, Mirror Guide not so much. And then all of the Chaos Marauders with great weapons, only one of them was really able to do any good work. But the big hitters was the Swords of Chaos, able to get 1,800 in total value, and then Archaon, the Everchosen, 4,500 total damage value in this fight. Just a world beater of a lord, just unable to be brought down by Sigvald's Chaos side. As we can take a quick little look on how things fared on that side, Dragon Ogre Shaggoth unfortunately was only able to get 837. He was surrounded by those Swords of Chaos, and despite the fact he has armor piercing bonus versus large, just was not able to do a whole lot of good work. And I really should have been a lot more cautious with the Dragon Ogre, because he was pretty much needed to deal with Archaon. Nothing else could really do the job. Even Sigvald was not able to be up to the task. Rest of the forces, Chaos War on Poison unfortunately did get chased off, but all of the Marauder Horsemasters, 1,200 on these guys, 1,300 on them. They didn't do so hot, but 1,200 on the other one. So the 3 units that were left in the end got such great value. These guys do cost only like 700, 750 or something like that. And then the other Horsemasters did all right. But yeah, those Horsemasters did very, very well between them. Mirror Guard not so well. Same thing kind of with Ice Power side of things. Chaos Warriors with great weapons, pretty much a wash. Chaos Sorcerer Metal had some decent final transmutations, and the Plague of Rust were very helpful in just trying to do as much damage as possible to the remaining forces on Ice Power side of things. And then Sigvald unfortunately was able to get 1,300, so that's not necessarily too bad, but unfortunately, I mean, if you had some infantry support kind of in that late game, and then maybe they with that Chaos Sorcerer Lord with all that Horse Masters at the end, maybe in a different story, he may have been able to do some damage to Archaon. But as it was, unfortunately, that was not going to be enough to deal with Ice Powers. Wars of Chaos, and Sigvald is going to be brought back into the fold, as Chaos will remain undivided one more time. But that's all I'm going to have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.